Hello, everyone. Today I thought I would talk about having an appreciation for the past, which a lot of people don't really seem to have. In fact, I'm shocked and amazed about how, when it comes to anything, when it comes to history, history of this country, history of the world, history of the novel, history of writing, history of music, art, whatever it is, people are very, very ignorant, which now of course I'm not saying everybody is, but that tends to be the case, and this comes during a time period where people have more access to information than they've ever had before because of the internet. You know what people had to do if they wanted to know something before the internet? They would, if they were out of school especially, okay, they would either have to go to university and study, which could cost money. I mean, it wasn't as expensive in the past, but it was still quite an expense. Or they could go to the library or a bookstore and pray that the library or bookstore had the book they were looking for. Other than that, I mean, or if, in the television era, you could wait for a documentary to randomly come on television, but you couldn't have no control over when or if it would air. But now people have access to so much information, but people are more ignorant than ever. I mean, I'll give you an example of this. That doesn't mean you have to agree with everything that anybody said in the past. I don't, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have a respect for history. Like I was talking with this one person online about, because they were saying something like, "Oh, there should be an age limit on the presidency," and they were saying it should be 50, and I'm thinking 50. Why should it be 50? Because first of all, to run for president, you have to be 35 years old. So 35 and 50 is not really that doesn't give a lot of person a lot of time to run. I could see maybe 75, but sitting there, because some people say 65, but 65, the thing is that that's arbitrary retirement age. 75 is much more, because a lot of people tend to, generally speaking, tend to decline mentally and physically after 75. Again, not everybody, but on average, but not at 65. But anyway, though, some people were saying, but I definitely don't understand 50, because that would disqualify, most people who have been president from being president in the past, including George Washington, including Abraham Lincoln. I think Lincoln was around 51 when he was elected, and I think George Washington was in his late 50s, around 57 when he became a president. But they were saying, but I was saying, well, so you would exclude them, and then their comeback was, well, I don't really care, because I don't think that they were wise to begin with. I don't care if the United States wouldn't have existed without them. They probably would have been better off. And I'm thinking, first of all, then why are you having an opinion on the presidency if you don't care anyway? And secondly, not caring shows a tremendous amount of ignorance involving civics, history, and such, because you don't understand where you are now without understanding where you've been, and a lot of things that you take for granted now, things that you think are just self-evident in terms of either morality or human rights or enlightenment. Those things were developed by people in the past, and now you don't have to agree with everything they did. Like, I think that there are things that the founding fathers said and did that I personally disagree with. But that doesn't mean that I'm foolish enough to say that they weren't wise. Of course, they were wise. Wise doesn't mean perfect, but it's just the ignorance around such issues, I think, is astonishing, and this can apply to writing as well, around people not taking Shakespeare seriously because they think that he's just that he was in some kind of well, you kind of have two people. You have the people who think that he was from was poor and therefore couldn't have written the plays, and you also have people though who think that he came from some kind of privileged background and then he's not worth studying. But a person's background, whether it's poor, rich, whatever, privileged, not privileged, it's irrelevant to their contributions to art. And if you ignore the past, then you're going, again, of course, it's a cliche, but you're going to repeat the same mistakes. And if you don't know where you've been, then you're not going to know where you're going. And it's just, there's a tremendous amount of it's not just it's not just ignorance. It's what I would call willful ignorance. The idea that it's not just I'm ignorant of this fact. It's that I'm ignorant of this fact and I don't want to know because I've already made up my mind. And when you combine ignorance and lack of curiosity. That is the very definition of stupidity. And so, but no, you have to learn about history in all domains in order to understand life and where you're going. That doesn't mean you always have to agree with people from the past, but you take what you find valuable and then you discard what you don't. But in order to know what you don't find valuable, though, you're also going to have to read and learn about that as well in order to gain um, a decent perspective on things. Because ultimately, you have to read about things that you disagree with and other things in order to have that perspective. Otherwise, if you don't challenge your ideas, then for one thing, you're never going to grow as a person, and also then you're not going to develop those ideas to the fullest extent because you're not going to know what the challenges to them are and how to counter or rebut supposed arguments to them. So again, it's just this lack of appreciation for history really bothers me, and I think it needs to cease.